This is a picture I took from a corrupted Spongebob SquarePants bootleg tape. The tape itself contained around 4 episodes, albeit in the wrong order, from the second season, and had quite possibly the worst quality I've ever seen in any VHS, with extremely coarse video and audio that sounded like it was muffled by a pillow. None of that is important compared to the part I took this picture from though. I found this tape in the library section at Goodwill, as I like to look around for various treasures every once in a while. I don't normally buy VHS tapes, but this one in particular caught my eye with how mysterious it came off to me. On the side was a label written with pen, and it read, "To Georgia Jeffries." It made me wonder, was this a personal belonging that someone brought here either out of anger or on accident? I have heard cases of people taking their wedding videos or family photos to this place, so it was no different. I thought that maybe I could return it to its owner, so I bought it with my debit and headed over to my dad's place. After all, he was the only guy I knew who had a cassette player. I'm sure as hell not buying one. After a rough setup process, I put the tape in and pressed the play button. Imagine my surprise when the SpongeBob intro showed up. The damn video slid so much that I could barely make out the first few frames, but it eventually stopped and played as normal. One small thing I noticed was that the Nickelodeon screen bug wasn't in the corner of the screen, as if this was an actual recorded copy from the company themselves. Then after the first 3 episodes were done and dusted, Dumped played. It went on as normal, with Gary staying with Patrick at his rock, SpongeBob getting jealous, and so forth. It was fine up until it reached the scene with Patrick showing up to SpongeBob's house to get soap for Gary. Remember that one scene where SpongeBob asks if Gary wants fresh scent or heavy duty, but then he stutters halfway through duty due to his dad's say? Well, that rewinds twice in the video and the audio spikes, to the point where he sounds like he's saying two. After the stuttering bug, SpongeBob's eyes suddenly distained until they were swelling, and his mouth shrank to where it couldn't be seen. He then dropped the soap from his hands and turned to his left. Patrick and Gary had disappeared, leaving behind what seemed to be an actual transparent image of something on SpongeBob's sandy floor, a pair of black gloves. SpongeBob gulped and breathed heavily, but at this point he didn't sound like he usually would. He sounded like someone from a slasher film trying to escape from the killer, if that's a good enough way to describe it. A few seconds later, his puff slowed down and he eyed upon his door. Looking behind him and then to his right, he made his way over to the door and turned the knob before taking a peek outside. What followed was actual footage of a specific area suddenly showing up, with the time and date of it being recorded on the bottom left. It looked like a grassy field blowing away in the windy setting, with a road in the front and many trees in the back. The video was completely still, with no sign of the holder in front of the camera. No hands, no body, nothing. This went on for a few seconds before the video jittered and cut back to SpongeBob peeking out of his door. His eyes weren't circular anymore, they were structurally correct from the eyelash to the pupil. He made his way back inside before positioning himself back to where he was when this strange scene started. He shook in place, his fists clenching until they whitened, and then it happened. SpongeBob had no holes in his face, nor did he have a nose, but along with the natural looking eyes, he had a human mouth with misaligned teeth. The shot looked heavily posturized, and a specific line from SpongeBob during the original scene would repeat. Mixed with the line were sounds of SpongeBob loudly sobbing. "I'm a wreck without you. I'm a wreck without you. I'm a wreck without you." Various random words flashed on screen, spaced out between sets of ellipses. Words such as television and yogurt. This continued on for a few seconds before the tape ejected from the slot. Upon seeing what I had seen and all the bizarre shit that came from it, I had to know who this Georgia Jeffries woman was and why this was being sent to her. I just had to. I needed all the answers I could get. I tried a good few methods. making a Facebook page, asking friends in my area if they know someone by that name, encouraging them to spread the find, and even checking online phone books. By sheer luck, I managed to find one person, a 37-year-old woman living in the same town as me. Her phone number, address, and previous information were listed. I ultimately decided to visit her house to hand over the tape, as I felt like calling her over the phone and not knowing what I looked like would come off as less friendly. Put it simply, yes, it was the right person, for reasons I honestly didn't expect at all. She asked me what was on the tape, and I informed her of everything that I saw. When I got to the part involving the grassy area and the random words, she looked like she was panicking out of her mind while trying to be quiet. I asked her what's wrong, and she told me to repeat what I mentioned to her. I told her about the exact details I saw, and just for added measure, what words I remembered seeing. Here's what she said to me. On February 2nd, 2012, a finger belonging to her 6-year-old son was found near a field about 3 miles from her home. Shortly after, a DNA test was made and the results were given back to her. The location was similar to what I had described. Her husband didn't take him to school at the time he went missing. He was sick with an upper respiratory infection at the time, so his son had to take the bus. Or at least they thought he had taken the bus. A missing persons report was filed when he ended up not coming home. Elf, elephant, yogurt, red, and yo-yo were some of the words I saw on screen. She told me that he dressed as an elf for Halloween, but a year before the case. Yogurt was one of his favorite snacks to eat, red was his favorite color, the elephant was his favorite animal, and his favorite toy was a yo-yo that he carried to recess when he got bored. She still had that yo-yo. His favorite show in the whole wide world had to be Spongebob. He goes straight to watching it after school whenever he finished his homework. When her son was found, it was a revolting sight. In the woods, he was found dead in an underground cellar by a few teenagers, drenched in rubbing alcohol. His limbs were bound with duct tape and so was his mouth. They also found a small safe against the steel wall. Not only was everything touching the safe covered with rubbing alcohol, including the money inside, but a lone pair of rubber gloves were also found on top of it. When locals that dwelled near the area were questioned by police if they had witnessed anyone go near the woods, many replied saying that they didn't remember seeing anyone go near there, let alone spot a single individual outside. Those who did see someone reclaimed witnessing a person in winter attire. The case went cold. Disgusted, I offered to take this tape to the police for her. She begged me to do it, and rightfully so. What else would she have done? The authorities brought her over to their interrogation room to watch, and they asked me the usual questions, like how she knew this was linked to the death of her child for starters. We paused at certain frames, manually rewound a few times, and I pointed out the things I brought up. That's when I noticed something odd. The words that were shown on screen weren't just this poor kid's favorite things. Upon taking a closer look, the first letter of each word formed something when put together. It was a hidden message. They're lying. And that, my fellow minions, was Ditched, a Spongebob Bootleg Retake Creepypasta by LaFonda Pasta himself. So yeah, this creepypasta was actually pretty good from beginning to end. And I'll tell you why. The beginning is not as cliched as other Lost episode creepypastas. Like, have you seen blah 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 blah? It takes a unique spin on it, like, oh, this is the picture I found, blah 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 blah. And the Goodwill thing, blah 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 blah. The Goodwill thing I could actually believe happened, because there are some people out there that would legitimately do that just out of spite. Their own family members or friends or exes or something like that. It's just, my God. It's good, the story's pretty good. And it's pretty good. The protagonist is very realistic about helping this certain woman that lost her child or whatever. He watches the tape and it's normal at first, but then it kind of gets fucked up with dumped up to the scene where Patrick and Gary are there and then they disappear. And it turns out that there's some kind of weird found footage in a SpongeBob episode. A SpongeBob episode of all things. That is actually pretty creepy. And the pair of black gloves, that's also suspicious too. I wonder if somebody put it there on purpose. Anyway, it does start off, that scene starts off with the gouging eyes and shit, but then it changes into something more human-like. Something that's actually more realistic. And I wonder if that face is supposed to be the child's face or something. Of somebody who took it and put it on SpongeBob's face. Like, and I'm a wreck without you. I'm a wreck without you. I'm a wreck without you. I think that personally means that either the mom is grieving or the father's grieving or whatever. That's just my theory. I'm probably right about that. And the message at the end. They are lying. So who's lying? It's gotta be the mother, right? That's what we would think, right? But what if it wasn't the mother? It was both the parents. Yes, it's gonna be shocking, but I think it was both of the parents that killed that kid. And let me give you a reason why. The mom was panicking about the video for no fucking reason at all. The dad was claimed to have some upper respiratory infection about him. And they thought he got on the bus. So, well, what if the dad wore the winter clothes and took his kid and bounded him or some shit like that? And the kid was dead at the end anyway, which, my God, that's tragic, but it's a creepypasta, you know. You have to be careful with those things. And the protagonist acts in a reasonable way, I believe. He acts in a reasonable way, as to be discussed in, and the mother, for some weird reason, tells him to go to the police. Like, is she putting on some kind of facade or something? Because if she is, that's actually brilliant. A brilliant plan for her. But I don't think the parents made the video. I'm going to be honest. I think there was somebody else involved besides the parents that really loved the kid, but they were manipulated somehow into doing it. And that's what happened. And they're fucking blackmailing these guys. They're blackmailing the parents into confessing. Or, for the paranormal stuff, I'm going to guess the kid's spirit is somehow blackmailing the parents for what happened that day. And the ending is they're lying. It's actually pretty good plot twist right there. It's a pretty good plot twist. And the mother acting all panicked and shit, like, it's a facade. I think it's obviously a facade or something. So, I think it is implied that the mother had something to do with it in the story, so, yeah, I'd be creeped out too if I found out that a mother just, for some weird reason, wanted the video to go to the police if she made it. Wouldn't that suspect the police or anything? Even the police were suspicious in this story. Like, how does she know that? So I have a feeling in her future, if she already hasn't left the town, she's going to get a nice warrant, nice search warrant. So yeah, this is a pretty good story overall, Pasta. You did a pretty good job. The grammar's pretty good. The beginning's good. The middle's good. And the ending is good, too. I think the middle could have a little more detail in it. Like, when the other details come up, for example. Like the other details of the kid being bound or something, like. But I'm pretty sure that'd be cliched and shit, so it's just a minor nitpick. So yeah, I'm gonna give you Pasta a 9.5 out of 10 for this remake of a classic creepypasta that doesn't look like it's staring at my face. Thank you. Thank you very much. And that's my review, my fellow minions. I'll see you guys in my next video.